Hi, I'm odeean. Today I'm having a look at Fanstoys FT-03 Quakewave, an almost perfect modern update of G1 Shockwave. Shockwave comes in this beautiful box. Some of the characteristics of the box are similar to Masterpiece in that we've got this kind of white pinstriping on black card, but in other ways it's better. So we've got a really nice illustration of Quakewave Shockwave at the front here, and it's kind of a bookend box, so you can open and close it and keep your figure in display in robot mode on the bubble still if you wish. On the back of the box we just have some relatively poor photographs of Quakewave, nothing too special there. Quakewave comes with this credit card thickness plastic card. It's really nicely made, it's pretty high quality. On the back there's some photos of him with little tech spec like readouts, and on the front this really nice, again, illustration of Quakewave, different from what's on the front of the box. One bit of a negative with this card is that in this region here behind Quakewave we see some details which are of clouds floating between the Earth and Moon, and it doesn't come across that way when you just look. At first sight it looks more like the card is not made properly or misprinted, and when you really focus on it you can see it's meant to be that way, but I think they should have either just totally made it black in the background or perhaps made the clouds a bit more defined so it wouldn't look as much like a smudge as it does. But still, pretty high quality card. Also included is this printed instruction manual, same illustration as what's on the card, and using photographs with coloured sections as a kind of instruction guide, which is done relatively well. So here we've got Shockwave right out of the box, and just before we go any further I want to show you his little battery operated feature. So he's got a little battery compartment in his head and in his arm, nothing to do with this wire, this is just for show, but there are some little switches at the back here. So you'll see a switch here. If I flip that on, we've got an LED, a pinkish red LED in the gun, another switch the back of the head here. If I flip that on you'll see he's got quite a bright LED in his eye, which is yellow or orangey yellow. Now that's nice, but one thing that disturbed me about that is that it's actually pretty hard to unscrew the covers and put the batteries in. It's nowhere near the degree of easiness that you get from a kid's toy. And this is not a kid's toy, so I mean I shouldn't be expecting that, but what did happen is that in the process of unscrewing and putting on the back of the head, if I can just focus on that, I scuffed his plastic work there. Now on camera it doesn't look like much, but to my eye it's the only white piece of plastic on the whole thing, and it really shows up quite a bit. Maybe it's just that I'm annoyed at it because I just did it, but definitely if I had known I would do that I probably wouldn't have bothered to put the battery in to the head at all. I would have preferred to just keep my toy nice and new. Another thing I feel I have to mention is that when you look at this instruction sheet here, you'll see a circular area at the back of the toy, and this is to match his design from G1. And looking in the back page you can see that that little portion transforms onto the back of the gun mode right here to hold the reticle, I think that's what you call it, or a little targeting screen. My toy doesn't come with that, so this is where it's supposed to be attached and there's nothing there. So I bought this from Captured Prey, so I'm going to shoot off an email to them and see if they can get one for me, but a little bit annoyed that it didn't come in the box. I know it's not Captured Prey's fault. Let's hope Fanstoys have a supply of spare parts that they can give out in cases like this. I'll keep you up to date as to what happens with that in the future. I think now I'll just do a bit of a turnaround so you can have a look at how awesome this guy truly looks in robot mode. So I can just pull back a bit. You can see his feet are capable of making a nice A stance there. They've got some little ankle tilts. He's got a good proportion, very cartoon accurate, while at the same time managing to pull off the toy in much the same way as the G1 managed to pull it off, with a few notable improvements that I'll get to later. He's got that really nice chest profile. Very cartoon friendly chest profile, even more so than the original G1. So the cartoon, I feel, was very stylized based off the G1 toy, given that the toy existed first. This toy, however, truly matches the stylization that we got in the show, and that's really appreciated. I love that. Going around, we've got the same detailing. It's very true to the original concept. In a minute I'll show you some comparisons, but this detailing really matches well with the G1 detailing. We have heavy die cast on the toes and on the sides of the legs. Nice square backpack. Very attractive all the way around. As far as posability goes, we've got quite a lot. So the head has a swivel joint here, but it's also, it actually, I think it is some kind of a ball, like not the ball being in the head. I think the ball's in the neck, like the ball is facing downwards into the neck, but it's also on a little thing that can kind of rock a little bit, so you get a good range of motion on the head. The shoulders, much like the G1, can shrug up and down due to transformation. They can rotate forward. At the actual shoulder joint here, we have nice clicky ratchets. The ratchets are spring-based, just like a real official product. So one of the first third-party transforming toys that have actually the same quality of joint as a high-quality Masterpiece with clicky joints in the springs, or maybe even old Energon toys had clicky joints like that. We have a fully double-jointed arm here, so to maintain the look, you can just choose to use this little pivot here, or if you want to reach all the way up, we can do that. Very nice, no gap forming here in the elbow. Achieves that double jointedness perfectly. We've got a bicep swivel. There is a wrist swivel here. Not a ball, just a swivel. The fingers, look at that. Individually articulated for the most part. So even that pointing finger, fully individually articulated. And then the next one's down. We've got another finger, fully individually articulated. And then finally the last two are kind of semi-individual. But you can achieve truly lifelike poses with that hand. Next, we have the waist. So it's got a swivel at the waist. And from what I gather, if you have the part that I'm missing, that swivel is a bit inhibited, but I can't tell at the moment. On the skirt areas here, we have the ability to flip out to give more room for leg posability. There is a nice clicky ratchet backwards and forwards at the hip, friction based in and out, swivel at the hip, and also swivel under the knee. A clicky amount of, 90 degrees at the knee. The foot has ankle tilts like this, no ratchet, but they just tilt enough to let you get the A stance. They're not really there for anything else. We have toe articulation and a bit of backwards and forwards like that. So there's nothing this guy can't do. He's got everything you need to get some really cool poses happening. Let's turn on the light. Yeah, look at that. Cybertron shall remain as you've left it, Megatron. Laserbeak returns, Megatron. Next, let's see some scale comparisons with other popular figures at the moment. So here we've got Masterpiece Soundwave. And what is he? MP-13 from Japan. These guys are meant to go together. Just look at that. My God, they both have walked right out of the cartoon. You couldn't ask for better cartoon representations of each figure. Truly amazing how perfectly these fit. One third party, one official product. In fact, I like them both. this one has a lot more heft. So I've weighed these. I think this Soundwave was about 350 grams. I think Shockwave here was 550 grams. So in the hand, definitely feels a lot more beefy than Soundwave. But no, that's keeping in mind that Soundwave is for the most part hollow in the chest, but that weight that I quoted was with Laserbeak inside. Here we've got Shockwave next to the Hasbro version of Masterpiece Optimus Prime. So Prime is just a little bit taller when it comes to the height of his head, but again, these guys fit absolutely perfectly together. If you were in the market for maybe considering Masterpiece as your new classics, figures like this Shockwave, they really make that look like a doable thing. I mean, up until now, when we weren't getting so many Masterpieces of this kind of scale and quality, you know, it was a iffy proposition. Like Rodimus, he was a cool Transformer, but way out of scale with a lot of the other toys. Now that they've kind of stabilized with things based on this MP10, and other companies can do the same thing, the future is looking really bright for Masterpiece / classics. Next, here we have the Energon. I don't think he was called Shockwave, maybe Shock Blast I think was his name. Up until now, a lot of people have been using this guy as their Shockwave, and he had a pretty good head for it. Not bad arm on this side, but this huge, ridiculous arm was the killer for most people, and it always has a tendency to fall off like that. I've seen a few mods on this, on the various boards, of people pulling off, getting two toys and pulling off the good arm off one of them and giving this guy two good arms. I never could be bothered to do that. I always had faith we'd get something better, but he is more classic scaled. So I've read that Toy World, after several more releases, has planned to downsize this to a more Voyager friendly scale. If they do, I'm definitely a customer. I will buy it. The design seems simple enough that it could pull it off, but I'm not holding my breath, you know. I'll take what I can get, and at the moment the big one's what we can get, and it's so awesome. I'd love to have that. This guy, in retrospect, is starting to look a little bit not so crash hot, especially with these huge feet. Okay, finally, for a size comparison, here we have the real Shockwave, G1 Shockwave, with Quakewave. So you can see the color plastic is really very different. I mean, this guy was never cartoon accurate. This guy here, he feels more cartoon accurate in his purple. If they made a darker one, I think I would buy it. This is a really nice toy, and I would love to have one in this dark color. Whether they judge they have a market for that or not, I don't know, but here's hoping that they do. And in this, here's one of the common problems with that toy. You can see what I was talking about before, the shapes of the torso, of not the torso, of the chest. This guy has the really angled, like the peak in the middle and the up and down here where it has the angle, where that angle is much less pronounced in the G1, but in the cartoon we always got more of an angle. Maybe it was due to them using more perspective, some stylized perspective in their animation style, but this Quakewave really feels to trump G1 when it comes to cartoon accuracy. It doesn't have any of the problems of the legs collapsing. Let's just hope that this die cast down here in his feet and on the sides of his legs, focus, let's just hope this die cast, which is so shiny now, lasts as long as the G1. So my G1 Shockwave, which is really G1, it's not a bootleg, he's got some really nice die cast there. It hasn't seemed to rust at all. I don't know if that's coated, I don't think it is, or maybe it's just that I had this guy wrapped in a cloth. Maybe the cloth is what kept him dry enough to not rust, I don't know, but he's hoping the lifespan on this is at least as good as the lifespan on this. One thing to note, I've painted this hand black when I was a kid. I think it was clear plastic, can't really remember. I know there's a bit of a controversy over this translucent pink hand. I like this, I'm happy with it, no complaints from me there. Another bit of complaining or unhappiness I've heard of is with this pipe going from the back down to the front of the arm. Now I must admit, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to have it at the front, and it seems to get in the way of making him look good. I think I would prefer it at the back, but looking at this guy, you can see that it is definitely toy accurate to have the hose coming into the front. If Toy World are nice enough to provide a replacement arm with their next product like they said they might, I would be grateful for that, and I probably would put it on, but I can't fault them for being toy accurate with the design. Now, unlike our G1 counterpart here, who used to have some boo, woo, woo, woo sounds when you pulled his lovely crotch here, he also had light up hands. This Quakewave has no sounds. And again, I don't care about that. The amount of trouble that I had getting the little battery into the head, just it puts me right off. And the way that they've done the backpack and made it incorporate the extra bit, so the extra bit being this, on G1 Shockwave there's always this extra bit that has nowhere to go. At least with this guy, the extra bit has become this, if I can pop it off, has become this part just flipped inside out, so it gives you somewhere to keep that bit. Backpack not even being on here now, so it's quite nice to not have to deal with little midget Shockwave. It's quite nice to have to not deal with that little bit of junk that always floats around and will totally ruin your toy if you lose. Transforming this guy is a little bit more complicated than the G1, but not too much. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just make him all straight like this. Then ensure that he's got a nice closed fist with no bits sticking out. Open up this panel and just flip his fist into the arm. Click that back in. You'll hear a click. That click is important, holds the little panel in place. The next thing you want to do is straighten off his arms, and you'll hear that little click when the arm is straight. The other side also has a little tab that clicks in. Okay, now his arms are done. The next thing is shrug up his shoulders like so, and untab the little tabs under his armpits that keep the chest locked into its proper position. That will enable you to lower the chest like this, giving you room to move the head down into that hole. So the head can be a little bit tricky to get exactly right, but after a while you should be able to figure it out. Kind of doesn't 100% fit into where you want it to go, but if you just squeeze those little antennas, I don't know, there's a way to do it like that. Okay, so there's no good way for me to explain that, but the head has a kind of angle that you have to achieve to get it to go in the right way, and it just takes a little bit of fiddling to make it right. Push these tabs back in to relock the chest. The next thing, I think, pop off this backpack. We'll have a look at what to do with this afterwards. So then this panel can be folded down like that, and it will lock into place there. There's a little tab behind it. Continue moving these arms up until they look like this. This is the part we're interested in. Don't worry about the part that's off screen. So holding these kind of shoulder regions, what we want to do is rotate them inwards like this so that the little hose doesn't get tangled until they've been turned the whole way around like that. Now, you'll see some little tabs on the arms. So when we bring them closer and closer together like this, you'll see that they do actually tab together. So that's quite a secure bond now. Finally, on that arm part, very carefully slide the gun barrel across until it's in the center of the two arms. I've seen some people damage the wires inside by being rough with this, so just carefully put it to the center. No rough treatment in this case. The next thing we want to do is come down here and fold the heel spurs in like this, as far as they will go. That will give you just enough clearance to then fold the feet, like the toes, in over them like that. Just give them a good push. That will put them into their cavity, into the little compartment, and this cover can bend down over the top of them to hide the fact that they're there. This doesn't want to go, this one. Oh, I see. There's a little tab here. You've got to wait to the next step to do that because this little tab is in the way. So what is that next step? Well, that is to pop out these little sections, like two little wings at the side that way, and that'll give you enough clearance to move this flap down. Now you'll see on mine there's a little bit of a QC issue where the pin is very slightly misfired there to give a bit of a white stress mark. I didn't do that just then, that's the way it came. Not too bad I guess, but it's a worry. Okay, next what we want to do is fold these back even more. But as you go, you're going to have to lift them out like this on this nice ratchet joint. Only when you get it up that far are you going to be able to push this so it's the whole way back. If you try to push it the whole way back before it ratcheted up far enough, you're going to stress out the joint and maybe even break it. It's pretty durable though. So the other side we're going to do the same thing. Just ratcheting it up and bending it back at the same time. Okay, so next, this is a bit of a crucial step here that it's easy to make a mistake with. We want to grab at this part here. We're not twisting it below the knee. That will screw us up later on. So we're going to turn it at the swivel just below the hip so that the handle sections now are facing in the same direction. And at this point, we can just squeeze them all together and lock them in. They tab really securely together. We're going to get the whole thing like this now, and it's ready to push in on itself and collapse lengthwise. So to do that can be a bit scary because you need quite a bit of force. So we're going to grab the front section securely and the back section securely. We're just going to push until we controlled collapse it like that. We don't want to just go wild and slam the whole thing shut because that's not going to be good for the toy. So a controlled collapse like that, and it all fits in quite nicely. Now you'll notice that at the same time as the legs collapsed in, the waist also collapsed in. After that, to lock it in place so it doesn't come out again, we're going to flip out these little sections here. Try to get them both at the same time, and you'll see some people have said that's like a trigger. I don't care, it doesn't matter, it doesn't look like a trigger to me. We're just going to tab these up like that, and it locks the whole thing in to make it dead solid. It's a really rock solid transformation, even more so than the G1 toy. That leaves us with this little gizmo. What we want to do with this is split it in half. So you can see that it stretches out long ways like this, if I can focus on it. That's some really nice detailing there and some superb silver paint. Quite an attractive piece in and of itself. On the inside, we want to flip this little section up, and this is going to be a guide for the shape so that we can form a shape around it like this. But before we can close it off, what we have to do is position the gun barrel over it. So it's a little bit hard to do on camera because it requires the use of both hands to some degree, but I'll try to manage. I've done it. Okay. I don't know if I've done it as good as I could if I was not on camera, but anyway, that's basically it. That's Shockwave. So you can see that the handle section is a little bit short for an adult hand. My hand is pretty big, but you know, you can see a whole finger free floating down there, but it is spot on size wise. This, I'll show you in a moment, the G1 toy in gun mode, but it is just about the same size as that toy, and in robot mode pretty much spot on for Masterpiece size. So you'll see no size complaints with this guy from me. I would like the Voyager one, as I mentioned before, which would be even more oddly sized in gun mode, but it's really nice. Just I'll give you a bit of a look around. Everything that you'd expect Shockwave to be. Really beautiful. This wire feels kind of durable. I haven't yanked on it or anything, so I mean, I haven't broken it out, but it feels like it's actually plastic, like a wire coating, not like a rubber hose. Rubber hoses would have a tendency to crack up and break, but this looks like it's going to survive. At least the middle part does. I don't know how securely it's anchored. I don't really want to find out, to be honest. So here we have G1 Shockwave in gun mode, and you can see he's got this little circular bit up here, which my Quakewave doesn't have, and that's because that's the missing part from my toy, which I'm going to try and get off the manufacturer. But at the moment, that's the only major difference, in that this target and this circle are missing off my one. Size wise, I know it's hard to fit this on camera, my arms are so outstretched. You can see that they're virtually exactly the same size wise in gun mode. Very, very nice. Very similar detailing. You can see on the sides of the arms here, if I can focus on it. Hang on, focus. A lot of the panel lines match quite well, so a few liberties have been taken, a few omissions, but the general themes of the panel lines have been maintained through onto this new toy. Similar shapes. Very, very nice. So my final thoughts on this Quakewave, aka Shockwave. Let's talk about price. So I bought this from Captured Prey, as I mentioned before. In fact, this was my first ever order through Captured Prey, and I think it was about $150 before shipping. Now this is the only thing I wanted from them at that time, so with shipping to Australia it was pretty close to $200, maybe $190 something, which is a bit more than I'm happy to pay, to be honest. I'm used to paying that much, given that Soundwave is pretty close when I bought it from BBTS, but that's too expensive for figures like this, and if it just wasn't so amazing looking I wouldn't have done it. But it is amazing looking, and that's really what's got me sucked in. If I'm the kind of person who could be a bit more patient, I did see it later on at Chumungmung for as low as $120 on pre-order, but his pre-orders were for the third run. Now my pre-order was the second half of the first run, which was the run was 1,000 units, and it took me all the way up until now to get it. I got this just now today, and I can imagine if I was in the third run, we'd be talking months and months away, and I can't wait. I'm not that patient. I can't wait months and months to get such awesome figures like this. So I guess paying the extra, what's that? His shipping's cheaper for me too, so it would have worked out about $50. So paying the extra $50 is the premium that I've had to pay to get this guy in my hand now instead of May or June. So is it worth it? I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. Part of the reason I can justify it to myself is that I just sold a bunch of stuff on eBay, and we all know that PayPal credit doesn't feel the same as money. So when you've cleared out your junk and you have a bit of credit in your PayPal account, you don't feel as if you're spending a huge wad of cash when some of it gets blown on a figure like this. It seems like magic money that comes from nowhere. Not really the case, but that's at least how it feels. All around, the feel of the quality of this toy is absolute top tier. So if I had to, out of all the toys I own, this guy fits in the top tier of quality with those toys, and that is saying quite a bit. Just going on the look, he looks on par with Soundwave over there, the where is he? This dude. He looks on par. The model is spot on for both of these, but plastic wise, my god, his plastic quality just feels so much better than this. This guy has a brittle kind of feel to him, and I love it. I love the Soundwave, but I feel like I've got to be careful, especially in this area around here. I feel like it's going to break. Just got that brittleness to it. There is no brittleness to the feel of Quakewave. He feels solid. The parts that you would worry about, like in the joints here, they're a different kind of plastic, which is, I don't know what they call that, but it's not as hard. It's kind of a tiny bit flexible so that the joint is not prone to breaking. This guy doesn't have that. His joints are still made of the hard plastic. Don't ask me why, but in here it just feels like it's that brittle plastic, which is a little bit concerning. So I would go so far as to say that the build quality on Quakewave is even higher than what we're seeing in Masterpiece Soundwave. I wouldn't rate him higher than Soundwave, and that's just simply because Soundwave's design is much more complex, and so you have to give him credit where credit is due. So if you're looking for this guy to be in a Masterpiece lineup, he definitely fits in a Masterpiece lineup. There will be no worries at all aesthetically putting this guy on the shelf with Grimlock, with the Seekers, especially the new Seeker mold, with Soundwave, any of these guys. He would look fantastic if we could get a new Megatron from anybody, Takara, Hasbro, third party, I don't care, but we have no Megatron suitably scaled for this dude yet, and that is what I got my fingers crossed for coming soon from somebody. But can I recommend it? Definitely I can recommend this. Given that so many people have got it now, we're probably, I don't know, there's 2 runs fully sold out, so that's 2,000, and the 3rd run selling now, so at least 2,000 people in the process of getting this. Probably close to 1,000 already have it. He seems to be across the board being praised, and across the board people are not having that many QC issues, so you should have no worries about jumping on board with the 3rd run of pre-orders. But who knows how many they'll make. All I can say is I think that you should go out and get it now, because it seems unlikely to me that they'll just make the toy indefinitely, and 3 runs back to back is quite a bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if who are we talking about here? Fanstoys. I wouldn't be surprised if Fanstoys want to make something else after the 3rd run of this guy. So now is the time to buy if you want to have this toy. Anyway, I'm pretty glad that I have it. I recommend you go out and get it. This has been my video review for Fanstoys Quakewave FT-03. I'm Odeean, and thanks for watching.